My name is Jibrin, and this is my angle. We have Barrister Austin Manta, as usual, a very senior legal practitioner. We shall be talking about, I think it has to be revisiting of the Dele Farotimi and Barrister Dele Farotimi and Barrister Afe Babalola. And we discussed extensively on that, but we want to address some of our viewers wrote some comments here and asked some germane questions, and that's why I had to call back Barrister Manta to actually answer the question. Barrister, thank you once again for joining us.
It's my pleasure to be here.
Yeah. Now, on the update, we were made to understand that Dele has been granted a bail, right? Of
Yes.
about 50 million. I don't understand why. Sometimes this bail thing is just a crazy stuff or whatever. Anyway, we'll come to that. Now, there were criticism on our last discussion on this matter, and I need us to address those criticism. Sometimes we Nigerians, and not just Nigerian human beings, we behave emotionally. We just have a set idea of what things should, where things should be, or how things should be done, or what is expected to be. And so whenever we have any contrary opinion or contrary comments against what we have in mind in our heads, we come fire blazing, a sort of. So, but that is just a human being for you. No one, natural human being doesn't want to hear from the other side. They don't want the balance. They just want you to just pull out your sword and begin to slit everything around you. But that's not the way life goes. So, Barrister, let's take it from this. Let's answer this man's. I don't know his name, but he asked a question. Barrister, please kindly educate me on the process involved in prosecuting a libel case. What can lead to it being struck out at the apex court? Can you answer that question, please?
Yes, thank you very much.
I think this libel, before we go, this libel has to do with the one Farotimi sued this man on. What's his name?
Afe Babalola.
Afe Babalola. Yes. So because we talked about it briefly. What can you remind us of what you said? I know you talked about how the thing was struck out. So this our audience now, one of our audience asked what are the possible reasons for a libel case to be struck out by the Supreme Court?
Thank you very much, and thank the viewer for that question. The libel case is not isolated from any other criminal matter. The process for hearing a libel case is the same process for hearing a murder case. It's the same process for hearing criminal breach of trust. It's the same process for hearing a theft case. The criminal process has a same process for every criminal case brought before the court. So if a libel case forms part of a criminal case, it will follow the same trajectory. There are rules dealing with criminal cases. In Nigeria today, we have Administration of Criminal Justice Act that applies at the federal level. Many states have also adopted their own administration of criminal justice laws. I'm informed that Ekiti State is one of such states. I know Lagos State, I know Kaduna State, where I am. We have Kaduna State Administration of Criminal Justice Act. This streamlines processes of bringing a person to court on criminal charges, taking of his plea, the bail the trial up to judgment. So there are rules. There's no specific rule for a particular crime. It is one set of rules for every charge that is brought before the court. Now, having said that, the same rule applies to libel or defamation when it comes to why it should be struck out. If a charge is brought to court, the reasons why it could be struck out it depends on where the charge is. If it's at the High Court, you don't take a person to the High Court except you prefer a charge. But in the magistrate court, for instance, where Dele Farotimi was charged, we take what we call first information report. First information report, FIR. That FIR states in general terms the alleged offense. Now, after the hearing of the case, the magistrate is to frame a charge after he has heard evidence from the prosecution only. Based on the evidence that prosecution will call, the magistrate at that point will frame a formal charge, and then the accused person will be called upon to enter his plea to the formal charge and defend himself. Whereas in the High Court, this procedure is different. A formal charge is preferred from the beginning, from the word go, and you are called upon to take your plea and defend yourself. Now, there are many reasons why a case will be struck out, but he said why it should be struck out at the apex court. We don't normally strike out a case at the apex court. We strike out a case at the court of first instance, where the charge is or the case is taken to. And there are a couple of reasons. The first thing we used to say is that a court must be properly constituted in order to hear a case. So if a court is not properly constituted, it cannot hear a case, and consequently, upon a proper preliminary objection, that case can be struck out. If a court is properly constituted, then the case must come before the court by due process, following the due process as prescribed in the rules that I mentioned before. In the administration of criminal justice, there is a first information report. There is a charge that can be framed, and you are brought to court. How you are brought to court is not important. It's not relevant to the court. For the court, you are present in the court and you answer to the charge. Now, having said that, then you come to the charge itself. Were it in the High Court, we can attack a charge on the ground that it does not disclose an offense known to law. In criminal law, you must charge somebody under a specific written law. The charge cannot be at large. It must be under a specific written law. You will quote the section the offense has been committed in the charge. So if you just make mention of anything that is not known to law, a charge can similarly be struck out. Next, you go to the territorial jurisdiction of the court, for instance. An offense alleged to have been committed in Lagos State, for instance, cannot be tried in Ekiti State, cannot be tried in a state outside the territorial limits where the offense was committed. So if I commit an offense in Kaduna and you take me to try me in Abuja, I will raise a preliminary objection that court in Abuja has no jurisdiction to try me because the alleged offense was committed outside its territorial boundaries. In that case, too, the matter will be struck out. Then, like I said, and I will give an example. Today we heard that Dele Farotimi has raised a preliminary objection to the charge against him in the magistrate court in Ekiti State, that Ekiti State's law does not recognize criminal defamation. So that is part of what I said before. If the laws in Ekiti State, remember I mentioned that Lagos State, Edo State, to my knowledge, had abolished criminal defamation as part of their criminal laws. Now we understand that the same thing happened in Ekiti State. So if that is the case, there are no court in Ekiti will be having the jurisdiction to try criminal defamation. Maybe because of that, you are aware that the police have arraigned Dele at the Federal High Court in Ekiti. And it is the Federal High Court that granted him bail. And the charges there are under the Cybercrime Prohibition and Prevention Act, which is a federal enactment. So it also means that the state high court will not have jurisdiction. That is apparently why he was taken to the federal high court and charged under the Cybercrime Prohibition and Prevention Act. So there is a couple of reasons why a person can raise criminal objection to a suit, just like even in civil cases. The same thing applies in criminal matters, and the court will rule and either strike out or say it has jurisdiction and continue. You are still at liberty to appeal to the Court of Appeal and from Court of Appeal all the way to the Supreme Court. Now, in Dele Farotimi's case of defamation against Afe Babalola, I presume it was a civil. I'm presuming because he was not clear on the type of case he sued. He said he sued him for defamation. So I take it that it was a civil matter that he filed, and I would have loved him to elaborate on how and in what circumstances the case was aborted at the court of first
on
instance.
Record?
No,
what happened? What transpired with the case?
No, he did not go into detail. I think he just mentioned that Afe Babalola used his influence to cause the case to be terminated at that stage. So I don't know on what basis the case was actually terminated, whether a successful objection to the jurisdiction of the court was raised. I cannot tell. If he had given more details on that, maybe it would have been.
Excuse me, this is a follow-up question. Now, the termination, the Libel case started already, right? It commenced.
Yes. He filed the case
so,
according to him.
Yeah, so
against,
if it was filed and the proceeding started and eventually it was struck out or something happened, we don't know what happened. Is it not supposed to be on record since it appeared on the court docket? Is that what you call a docket, right? As long as it appeared on the court docket. So is it not supposed to be on record what happened with the case, whether it was struck out or there was an agreement to withdraw the case by the complainant, or by the one by the person who filed it?
Certainly.
So what I'm saying now, is there no way we can have a record of what happened with that case, that Libel case?
Most certainly, if you go to the court where the case was filed, you can see the processes and the end of what happened from the records of the court.
Now, apart from that, we are on internet era now. Everything you go on Google, you go pull up or whatever. Is there no way we can pull that up online of what happened between a case between so person and the other person and so person?
It's a difficult process. In Nigeria, the internet or the online process is not that advanced. Perhaps at the High Court and Court of Appeal and Supreme Court level, you can Google, but the lower courts, for instance, magistrate and other courts. And in any case, if you want to go to a particular case, you have to have, for example, the case number, the suit number, with which you can assess its particulars. For instance,
no, but Google. Hold on, let me see if internet. I can. The case between Libel case. Hold on, Libel case. Between Dele Farotimi and Afe Babalola. Yeah, we don't have anything. Everything is just the recent stuff.
Exactly. That is just what I'm
Yeah.
trying to say. We have not advanced to such a level that you can just go and get the particulars of every case filed in Nigerian courts. What he complained about, he first complained about the time it took the case to be assigned to a judge. You know, when you file a case in court, the
Yes.
file is opened and sent to the chief judge, and the chief judge will assign a case to a judge, a particular judge that will hear it. Now, some of the things that happen, if you want to frustrate a case, the chief judge will just pocket the case for as long as probably something that he wants to prevent if there's urgency or anything and the case has not been assigned within time. You can see, so Dele was first complaining about the time it took for the case to be assigned, which he protested,
Okay.
and eventually the case was assigned.
That is
Then he went
the libel suit, right?
libel
It's a
case, yes,
libel case.
against
Okay.
Afe Babalola. So after he protested the long delay in assigning the case, it was eventually assigned. And according to him, Afe Babalola used his influence. That is the point I'm making. He did not elaborate on what actually the legal processes that actually happened, whether they brought a criminal objection and the case was struck out successfully, in which case he would have had the right to appeal to a higher court, or what actually happened. But I remember there are issues.
Is it the land? Is it the? I think is it the libel or the land case that is
Is the
the
land
that is
case
the
is the land case that gave rise to the Libel case that he instituted
okay.
against Afe Babalola. And remember,
Okay.
I want to make the point. In his book, he made a lot of telling admissions that are also contrary to our professional ethics. Serious ones.
Okay.
So if you are looking at what he said in his book, is self-indicting as a legal practitioner, because he said the case was assigned to a judge where he started practice, who was his boss, where he started practice. And the judge told those people that this is what you should do. Go and file this thing. I was misled to grant those interim orders. Go and file this thing, bring it, I will strike it out. That is the judge privately discussing a case before her with a party in the absence of another
Wow.
party. And the people now
Wow.
Dele Farotimi was their lawyer, and they came to him. And his book, he said, against his will, he still had to follow what the client said and did as the judge had directed. Now, if you look at that
Wow.
portion, it is self-indicting. That is contrary to our professional ethics. So it's not something
Is that not? Is that does that not contribute also to the corruption in the judiciary?
this is what I'm saying. This is exactly what I'm saying. It's contrary
So
to
it
our
means that by default,
by
by
default. He is
default,
also
he
guilty of what
encouraged the corruption,
he is guilty of what he's accusing Afe Babalola of.
accusing. Okay, wow,
So,
wow.
and that is in his book. A lot of people, a case of David and Goliath. People line up immediately on emotion behind
Behind
David,
David, yes,
behind David. But if you are being asked, I am not asked on this platform to say I'm supporting. So I'm asked to analyze
correct,
the issues involved for the benefit of the
yes.
public. So I'm not being
That
emotional.
is what that is
I'm
what we
trying
always
to
do here. Of course, we
I'm
balance it.
trying
That's just
to
it.
balance every side. And
Correct.
like the good Christian that I am, I'm trying to put myself in the position of both parties, both as Afe
Correct.
Babalola and as Dele Farotimi. So I'm not
Yes.
just aligning like the mob. I'm not part of the mob that we take a position based on
Side.
emotional
Yeah.
issues. So I am trying to look at it from both angles, objectively. So if you read the book, excerpts of the book, he has indicted himself for being part of what or doing something he is accusing Afe Babalola of by having a case before a court, discussing with the judge, even if it's through a third party, on how he will bring a particular application to the court and the court will grant it. So that itself is part of corruption of the judiciary and part
Wow.
of professional ethics violation.
Yeah, this new revelation he just gave to me, and which is you see that is what actually I when it comes to critics, I am against people about. You don't preach what you cannot fulfill as well. Because whatever you say, you should learn to, because especially when you are a public figure. So if you are accusing someone of corruption, what are you involved in that same corruption? That is what you ask yourself. So it's so sad to hear that. Again, for those of you who may know, who are just joining us for the first time, look, Dele Farotimi, of course, I'm on his side. That is as an activist, but on this issue between him and Afe Babalola, I am not on. We are not on anyone's side. We're just trying to balance the situation. This is the whole argument here. Trying to empathize with both sides, sort of. So, and I have done that extensively on my monologue a short while ago, and where the blame was big enough to go around. I blamed Dele Farotimi where he needed to be blamed, and I blamed Afe Babalola where he is supposed to be blamed. And that is the way. That's how we roll here. We don't, no matter who you are, no matter how close you are to us or how far you are, even our enemies who talk, who actually speak well of our enemies if our enemies does well. That is if we have any enemy at all. So,
And
Barrister, let's
I
clarify this.
wanted
There's
to,
another. Yes, please,
oh,
briefly.
no, I wanted to reiterate the point I made that
Yes.
from everything that has happened, nobody should say that Afe Babalola is not aggrieved. He has the right to be aggrieved, considering his age, considering his position in the Nigerian legal
Yeah,
system,
I pointed out too on my
in the
monologue. Go
Nigerian
ahead.
state. Nobody should claim that Afe Babalola has no right to be aggrieved, to be offended by what is written in a book that will outlive him, outlive the writer, and even outlive their immediate children. So this is something that is put in permanent form. When history is written, people will say there was a great man, a great legal icon. He did this, he was this. And others will be saying, oh, from the book they read, the man achieved all these things through this. So let
All right, Barrister.
the
Sorry,
issues are
we are
out
spending
there.
too. I didn't expect us to spend too much time on this. Okay, I need us to address this by another commentator here. The commenter wrote that hold on. Now he was concerned. He says, firstly, Barrister Dele Farotimi spent no less than 11 years in putting together this book. Do you think he doesn't know what he is doing? Now, actually, I think I actually responded to this on the comment, but I need you to respond to it. So this writer, this person, this viewer commented that this man, it took him 11 years to bring this book to bear. Do you think after 11 years that there will be a mistake in the book? But you just pointed one mistake right now. You pointed one mistake where he shot himself, where Dele shot himself in the foot by actually partaking of the corruption in the judiciary, by being part or encouraging the corruption in the judiciary, and it was reflected in his book. That is number one mistake. Now, after 11 years, do you think, Barrister, let me throw this question to you. Do you think that Dele Farotimi will end up making mistake in the book that he published?
No, I wouldn't put it as mistake. I would put it as whether after taking 11 years to put up a book, you have evidence to prove what you have written in the book. Now, if people
Correct.
are
Good.
making that statement, we can say that if that is your question, then the issue has been simplified. You wrote a book, you accused me, and I say, no, what you said is false. Let's reach or meet at the arena where you can prove what you wrote in it, what took you 11 years to put up in the book. So that should not be something that should become an outcry. The issue is perhaps whether because he took the criminal process or the civil process. So each of them would lead to whether Farotimi can prove what he wrote in the book, what took him 11 years to put together in the book, or whether he will be unable to prove it. In either case, whether the civil case or criminal case, he will be required to prove that as a defense. So, since it's an evolving issue, if the questioner put it that way, I will say let us leave it to the court, and we'll follow and hear the evidence as it goes, and see whether he is able to substantiate the allegations.
Again, I will ask this question in a different light. After 11 years of probably, let me use the word, Dele slept over this over and over again for 11 good years. He ended up after 11 years he came out and accused Barrister Afe Babalola of corrupting the judiciary. Do you think that there is do you think he can prove that? Let me start. I don't want my question to give me away by being siding one person. Do you think that Dele Farotimi can actually prove his claim? I think I asked you this question last week. I need you to expatiate on that.
And I will repeat what I said, that these are cases that are damn near impossible to prove. Because you talk about the nature of the corruption. It's either bribery of the judges or influence. Maybe you go and talk to the judges or give them some other benefit to give judgment one way or the other. That is the corrupting part of it. Now, these are very damn near impossible, except you have cast iron evidence to prove that, yes, he bribed the judges or he used some other influence. And it is very, very difficult from a practical point of view as a lawyer. It's difficult to know about or to have evidence admissible in court of something like that. Will you have wiretaped them to know when he is giving money? Remember, I think a couple of years back, a governor of Kano State was caught in a video collecting money.
Yes.
Which was alleged to be kickbacks from contracts. But you will see that in the court of law, that video alone may not be sufficient. There are so much other things background that have to come to amount to proof. Because proof in a criminal case, for instance, is beyond reasonable doubt. Although in civil cases, the burden is less. It's on the balance of probability. And that leads me to recent news that is circulating online, that WikiLeaks, I don't know if you have heard of it,
yes,
that WikiLeaks have released information that Afe Babalola paid about $1.3 million to some judges in respect of, I think, Plateau State's election petition or so, and one other case. That is, somebody has accessed WikiLeaks, and he has seen some diplomatic cables that talk about that. Now, for the public, that would be evidence of his corruption. But in the court, it cannot be evidence. It cannot be evidence of
Really?
corruption. Yes, what the American diplomat will write in his cable to his government cannot be evidence in the
Oh,
court.
okay.
You understand? He is
Yes,
talking
I
of
do.
his impression or information he would have got. So maybe somebody has told him. It is that person that can come to court and give evidence. And in that particular WikiLeaks issue, it was alleged that it was a counsel that used to follow Afe Babalola that said he was part of the people who took money. Now, that would be very good evidence. If the person can come to court and say, I was working with Afe Babalola and we took, on his instructions, we took so amount of money to bribe a judge or to give a set of election judges to manipulate their verdict, that would be good evidence. Whether that will manifest in actuality in the court is something else. But without those kind of evidence, WikiLeaks leaks or other statements will not amount to any evidence in proof of Dele's allegation. And like I said, we have all, and everybody knows that there's corruption in the judiciary. We all accept it.
Yeah.
We know it. But if you are required to prove it in the court according to the rules of evidence, that is a different ballgame altogether.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so very much, Barrister. Thank you for revisiting this. And I hope you have answered all the questions and the concerns of our viewers who actually asked questions regarding this on the comment section. Thank you very much. I think that brings us to the end of this segment.